President Cyril Ramaphosa has joined other heads of state and diplomats in England for Queen Elizabeth's state funeral. Britain's longest-serving monarch will be laid to rest tomorrow. Now, King Charles III was expected to be meeting Ramaphosa and other heads of state ahead of the funeral. For more now, we're joined by UK correspondent Olly Barratt, who joins us live from Windsor, where he's been for some time now. Olly, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's start with the news that you broke just a few hours ago, with the president's team revealing information to you that the president had indeed decided to cut his international trip short. He was supposed to return to the US after being attending the Queen's funeral tomorrow so that he could deliver an address at the United Nations General Assembly. But because of the power crisis here in South Africa, he has decided to return home following the Queen's funeral. Remind us again about the information that was given to you.
That's right, eNCA breaking the news that the president has decided to, instead of going back to New York, return to South Africa. So the programme for when he's here in London effectively remains the same, as you were saying. He's been meeting with Prince Charles at that reception at Buckingham Palace this evening. Earlier in the day, he went to see the Queen lying in state in Westminster Hall, and tomorrow he will attend the funeral at Westminster Abbey. But after that, the change is that the president will indeed be returning to South Africa because of the ESCOM load shedding issues that he wants to address. And the other bit of information that we were given by his spokesman is that he held a virtual briefing today in between those engagements to try and get a sense of exactly what is going on when it comes to those load shedding issues, why they've happened, and what can be done about them. But the key headline is that he will be indeed returning to South Africa, not heading back to New York, and therefore the South African address to the United Nations General Assembly in the days ahead will not be given by the president anymore. With Cyril Ramaphosa returning to South Africa, it will instead be given by the Minister for International Relations.
Now, the Queen's funeral very much taking place where many parts of the world are in crisis in different ways, shape or forms, especially power crisis being seen in various parts of the country, including your own. But we are seeing a massive gathering of world leaders on your doorstep ahead of the Queen's funeral. Some 500 dignitaries, I read somewhere, and what some publications in the UK are calling the gathering of the political or leadership gathering of the century. Talk to us about some of the logistics involved. Firstly, the reception today at Buckingham Palace with King Charles III and the Queen Consort Camilla, and then, of course, tomorrow's state funeral, the first since 1965, with Prime Minister Winston Churchill was laid to rest.
That's right. That's right. People are really racking their brains and trying to work out whether there has ever been a gathering of world leaders on this scale before, with this many dignitaries in the same place at the same time. We did see this evening that reception at Buckingham Palace hosted by the King for around 500 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, emperors, royal families from other parts of the world as well, and other officials. And then again, they will gather on Monday too for the state funeral, which really is a huge affair. So all of that brings vast challenges when it comes to security, when it comes to moving those leaders around the British capital. All of that is very complicated indeed. The police are saying it could well be their most complicated policing operation ever tomorrow in London. Added to that is, of course, the huge size of the crowds that are expected in London, and similar here in Windsor as well, because once the funeral ends in London, the focus really returns again to Windsor. The Queen's body will make its way here in a hearse. There will be another procession up to Windsor Castle behind me. There will be a committal service in which the Queen is lowered into the royal vault at St George's Chapel just over my shoulder, and then later in the day a private burial in which the Queen will be laid to rest alongside Prince Philip. And here in Windsor, there have been tens and tens of thousands of people in the town over the weekend coming to lay flowers, paying their own tributes, just getting a sense of the activity that's been building. There's a huge policing presence on the streets as well. There are sniffer dogs doing the rounds, making sure that everything is shipshape for the big day. So London and Windsor will be the two areas of focus tomorrow. Really complicated events that are being carried out. Just when it comes to the events themselves, the services and the amount of people that are involved, that add to that the logistics and the security and the transport and the travel and the size of the crowds. It's quite an endeavour.
Give us a sense of what you're expecting the general public there, their response to be. I mean, we saw all the talk on social media about the queue to end all queues this week, and about the British love for a good queue, tongue-in-cheek, of course, because people were queuing to pay their last respects. So we had Premier League matches were cancelled, so it's been very interesting to watch this from afar. Is the entire country expected, are you expecting the entire country to come to a standstill as they pay their respects? Or just to take in all the pageantry, I suppose?
Yeah, the vast majority, I think it's fair to say. Of course, there are people who think this is all too much fuss, that there's too much media coverage, that this is being carried out, as you were saying earlier, at a time of crisis when it comes to energy and cost of living and inflation. But all of the polling shows that the monarchy is incredibly popular, and I think there are going to be huge television audiences for everything on Monday. The country really will come to a halt. It is a public holiday. The King himself approved that, and so people don't have necessarily to go to work or to school, and they can stop and take in the services plural if they want to. Certainly here in Windsor there are people camping out on the streets of Windsor who want to be here on the big day. There are thousands of people who just want to feel part of history, who want to register this moment and want to be there for it. People are saying quite rightly that it is unlikely this country will ever see anything like this again, simply because of the circumstances of the Queen's very long 70-year reign, and of course all those dignitaries arriving in London too. So a huge moment for Windsor on Monday, a huge moment for London, a huge moment for the country, and yes, most of it will grind to a halt. We've just had a minute's silence as well here in Windsor, but also observed up and down the country, and that was again reflective of what we've seen over recent days, with a sombre observance of that minute's silence, impeccably observed up and down the country, but then afterwards in places cheers breaking out and applause breaking out. And a lot of people that I've been speaking to here in Windsor who've been coming to lay flowers and pay their own respects, just stand by the castle in contemplation, have been saying that's it for them. It's not just about saying goodbye to the Queen. They feel it's about celebrating her life and thanking her for the service and the 70 years of service that she gave to the country.
Okay, UK correspondent Olly Barratt joining us live there from Windsor. Thank you so much for that update, and indeed a busy day ahead for Olly over the next 24 hours as the country prepares to lay Queen Elizabeth II to rest.